The following keynote speaker will lead us into the lunch pit stop with scaling engineering by hacking Conway's law, the operational guild model, and is presented by Aviran Mordo, a dev-centric culture advocate and VP of engineering at Wix, the Israel-based innovative company that gives you the freedom to develop your professional website with just a few clicks. With a background in computer science and math, Aviran wears many hats, from software architect to problem solver and mentor, I hear. In his spare time, he volunteers to mentor engineers, CTOs, and aspiring founders, so take advantage of that. Let's welcome him to the stage.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm the one that's holding you from lunch, but I hope this session will be interesting. So we're here to talk about how to scale an organization. In my case, since I'm VP engineering, so it's something that we did, starting to think of how to scale our engineering organization, which, by the way, was so successful, which the whole company just built upon those concepts that we're going to talk about. So a little bit of background of what is Wix, if you don't know. Wix is a website building platform, which is not just a website. It's also the third largest e-commerce platform in the world, the biggest booking platform in the world, the fifth blogging platform in the world, and events. And we have a lot of technologies and solutions that we make a part of building a website. And also, it's a coding platform. You can go to Wix with low code or no code. You can actually build your own web application on top of our platform. And why it is relevant? Because we have a lot of different teams that are running at different paces, developing a lot of products. Just a little bit of numbers. So about 250,000 website builders using our platform. About 7% of the world websites are running on Wix. And about 1 billion unique users, visitors coming to our platform every month to visit the website that are built upon our technologies. So we're a global company with these are just the engineering offices that we have across the world. So that adds another layer of complexity to our scaling and cultural challenges. So who am I? So this is me. My team decided I should be a pop doll, so I'm a pop doll. Married with 3 lovely children. This is my cat. And a dog. They don't get along, so one is on the top floor, one on the bottom floor. This was my first computer, so you can guess how old I am. And I've worked in a lot of different companies, from big corporations to my own startups, and eventually ended up at Wix. So let's go to the beginning. When I joined Wix, it was a small startup. I was the first team lead in the company. We had 2 teams, front-end and back-end teams. I was the server team lead. And we had 3 small product lines and about 100 people, including customer care and everyone. So we ran in this model for a year or 2, and developing product as a functional team. So basically, all the developers in my team were responsible for all the products, the back-end development, and all the front-end developers were responsible for those 3 or 4 or 5 different products that we were developing. But as we gained more success and developed more product, we found out that we had difficulties in scaling. And why was that? Because we were kind of shifting resources between one product and another product. And as a startup, it's always fun to work on the new shiny product, but you actually have customers. And customers need to be treated, and they need to be addressed, their bugs, their issues. And we keep shifting resources, and we see that, yeah, we're very good in running fast to develop the new products, but the old product would kind of get neglected. So we were thinking about, OK, we have a scaling issue, and we need to figure out how can we optimize our company and our structure to both run fast, but not neglect our old customers, but also produce new products as fast as we can. So we looked at the industry. There are basically two major types of structures. And there's the functional model, which we were kind of doing. And of course, there's the business unit model. And none of them are perfect. Each have their advantages and disadvantages. So the functional model, like I said, there's a lack of product ownership because everybody is doing everything. There is no time to actually gain expertise in your domain, in your models. And one of the hardest things is it's really hard to predict your deadlines because you develop something, and then there is an urgent call or a critical bug, so you shift resources from time to time. So we couldn't really do great planning in this model. And of course, communication is hard and less focus on delivery and time to market. Now, on the business model, there's also disadvantages because you have a duplication of work. It's a wasteful model. And at that time, we were still a small company, so you have to be very cautious about your expenses. Technology and knowledge and then duplication of work and product integration is hard because everyone is doing their own. They don't care about the other products that are being developed and the other teams. And the worst thing, it creates silos. Every team on their own, they don't care about the other teams. And culture is something that is really important, at least for Wix. It's something that is always being talked about. The first thing is how to create a company with a great culture. So our assumption is there is no perfect model, and it really depends on which company and the stage of the company that you're at. But we're trying to do something and try to take the best of both worlds. So we create some kind of a fusion between those two models. And we started to think about it and develop something, the first iteration, we created the gangs and guild model. So essentially, what we did is we took the server and client, which are basically professions, and created a guild from them. We said, OK, all the server developers that it doesn't really matter what they develop, they belong to a professional guild. And all the front-end developers belong to a professional guild of the front-end. And the same for QA, and the same basically for each profession. So a guild is a group of people that share expertise and knowledge, code, and practices. And on top of those, we build gangs, basically teams, which a gang is a group of people that work on related products. So they have the ownership of their own product. Now, why does that solve a problem? Not all the problem. It solves a problem because it creates an independent product teams that can actually develop, but they all because we have the horizontal guilds. It solves the problem of knowledge sharing and practices. So basically, everybody is doing the same thing, and they have a common denominator between all of them. So on a day-to-day, let's say this is a developer. TM is a team member. The gang, or the team lead of a gang, tells a person, a developer, what to do. Okay? This is the roadmap. This is the backlog. These are your tasks for today, for the week, for the month, for the quarter, whatever. However, the guild, which is the professional guild, tells the developer how to do it. Okay? These are the tools. These are the best practices. This is how you should be developing software. Now, let's talk about what are the roles in this model. So a gang has the product lead, the team lead, whoever leads the gang. There are the team members that each of them are spread around the team that have product ownership. And the guild. The guild is a unit. Okay, it's an entity that has a guild lead. That's someone with full-time job, that their responsibility, that was me at the time, to manage the guild. The guild also have guild masters. So if the guild's goal is to spread knowledge, we need the people that spread knowledge. So guild masters, you can think about them as like the senior engineers, the architect, that they go from think about them like a bee, like a honeybee. They go from gang to gang and they spread knowledge and they help them do the right things. Now, they don't just spread knowledge, they also gain knowledge. Okay, if you have a cross-organization, someone that's going cross-organizationals, they can actually bring the common issues, the common problems, the common challenges that each gang is trying to solve, thus developing or figuring out, okay, what is the best practice for our entire engineering organization, instead of each and every one tries to solve the problems themselves. Now, the critical part of it, since they gain the knowledge, somebody has to develop solutions. So the infrastructure team, the framework teams, is actually belong to the guild. So it's developed by the guild and is used by the gangs. Okay, so the knowledge that we gain from looking across the entire organization is being brought back to the guild and develop the infrastructure and the frameworks that is now being spread around the entire company. Come on, okay. So this is the operational guild. It's being sometimes kind of confused with the Spotify model of the guild, which is more of an educational. At Wix, we have the operational guild, which is both educational and operational. Like I said, the infrastructure belongs to the guild. It's part of the guild. But the guild is doing more than that. Again, it's a cultural thing. So the guild is also responsible for hiring, for recruitment. And why is that? In order to create a common and baseline of the level of engineering that we want in a company. It's not up to the gang to decide, okay, I want this one, because they have like, you know the saying that A players recruit A players and B players recruit C players, okay? So we have, since the recruitment is being done by the guild, we have a very strict and standard line. When you're being recruited to the company, you first have to pass the bar of, are you good enough for the company? I don't care which of the gangs you're going to be, and it's not up to them, because a team lead sometimes can be very stressful. I'm missing a person. I have to have this person, so they kind of compromise on someone just because they are in distress. But since we're taking this responsibility from the teams into the guild, you get a very good baseline of engineering. Okay? And then once a person was recruited, then we can assign them to the actual team that actually fits their skills, their need. And we actually look horizontally. Now, the guild also setting the professional guidelines and methodologies based on the information that we get from across the company. We're doing the training, the material documentation, the infrastructure. Now, the guild has power, okay? It's not a consultant. It also has power. We can say, why would a team lead would actually listen to the guild, okay? Why would a person in a company, in a team, in a gang would actually listen to what the guild is saying? So, but the guild is also involved in the compensation process. Okay? Once a person is recruited, their level of compensation is determined by the guild, not by the gang. Okay? And it also helps with people with development, professional development, and career. But don't be mistaken. The #1 goal of the guild is to support the success of the gang, okay? Because the gang, they are the product lines. They bring value, they bring the business, they bring the money into the company. So the #1 goal of the guild is to support their success. It's not the success of the guild. So we started up with this model, and it went pretty good. And we grew from a small startup to kind of a medium-sized company with about 800 people, more than 10 different product lines. And we started to see that this model starting to break, okay? It can't support the scale because we have many gangs, many teams developing a lot of services. And we said, how can we be faster? How can we scale this model? So we thought about who are the companies that are run the fastest. These are startups. So we actually wrapped multiple gangs into a single domain. So the e-commerce platform is a single domain. And that acts just as a startup. So we call it inside Wix, we call them companies because they actually are companies. And a company have the CEO. So they are the head of company. And the company have the CTO, VP R&D, whatever. It's the head of engineering. At Wix, we don't have titles, so everybody can call themselves whatever they want. But let's say the head of engineering for that company. And of course, you know, at the bottom we have product managers that are supporting the company, the whole domain. So basically, we grouped a bunch of gangs that they have related domains, which each one has, before they had one service, and we grouped them together into companies. Now, what happens in this model? We see there's a silos again, right? Now, where are the silos? It's not about the profession, because the guilds are still there. They're managing the profession. The silos is on the roadmap of the companies. Now, a company has a goal to be the best at their own domain. Okay, so the e-commerce company, for instance, their goal is to be the best in e-commerce, not just e-commerce at Wix, e-commerce, you know, compete with Shopify, for instance. Okay. But they might say, in order for me as a head of company, I might say, in order for me to be the best and beat the competition, the global competition, I need to be separated from Wix and be my own domain, and this is how I can compete in this market. Okay, but this goes against the strategic goals of Wix as a whole, right? So, and we wanted to give heads of companies the ability to make fast decisions. So what we did, just like any other startup, startups have board of directors, right? So each company basically have a board of directors, which are basically the Wix's management. So each one of the company have assigned chairman, we call them chairman. This is someone from the Wix management, and together with a chairman from the Wix manager and the head of company, they can probably reach 95% of decisions they can make on their own. They don't have to be propagate it up to management, which takes time. So in this model, the guild has additional roles. It's now not aligned between GAG. It's also aligning between companies. Now, guild is not just engineering. It's a product guild, okay, aligned between the different products, to have the UX guild, to have one unified experience and not like thing like I stitched a bunch of different products and create something that kind of work. Okay, supporting the engineers, review the guidelines, improving the development velocity. Remember, as a company grows, the development velocity is going down. And the guilds keep working on how to improve development velocities with different methodologies, with better infrastructures. And the guild's role is now not supporting GAG. Remember, the guild is the selfless organization inside the whole org. It's helping everybody, and they're being measured on other people's success. So the guild is now a helping hand for the companies which actually bring the business value. It doesn't really matter if I will develop the best infrastructure in the world or the best libraries and nobody will use it, or they will use it, but they will miss their deadlines, their goals, their business goals. It didn't really help. So it's always a trade-off and always a conversation between the needs of the companies and how the guild can help out companies achieve their goals better. And always looking at the big picture and not being siloed and looking, okay, I am the company, I'm just looking at my own need, which is good because if you're a head of company, this is your task. You need to, the blogging company need to succeed in the blog. They don't care about events or code or whatever, right? But there is always somebody that is look at the big picture and align those two needs. So using this model, it allows us to move really, really, very fast. So just as a brief to show you how many companies and products we launch. So this is a timeline of the number of products and companies that we were able to achieve across, 6 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, this slide, using this model. And I'm going to leave you with this, okay? Velocity and quality go together, okay? If the companies always want to move fast, and the guilds, their mindset is, how can I do it in a healthy and good and high quality way? So there's always a balance. Nobody can push or pull their own direction, but it also always have a balance. So the organization is actually structured the way that this conversation will always happen. So nobody will have too much power to pull in one direction, because for the long term, it's going to basically hurt the strategy of the company. And we're done with this. We're out of time. So if you want the full slide, you don't have to. You can just scan it and download the slides. And now we have time for questions.
Anybody? Questions? Raise your hand if you have a question, so we can see you. I have to ask, startups are known for innovating, but big companies are known for their growth and for developing workflows. What inspired this? But tell us more about the trials and tribulations until you reach this phase.
So again, you've seen my my history and my own journey. So when I worked, most of my career I worked in startups, and it was very fun for me as an engineer. I'm still an engineer. To work fast, to have the success and see, and then also I worked at a big corporate, which was kind of depressing. it's interesting in its own way. They're doing some very cool, interesting stuff, but it's an org that works slow and kind of a bummer. So when I went to Wix and said, I'm now in a position to try to build something that actually can scale up and be like a very good place for engineers like me that want the joy of creation and how we can both move fast and be big at the same time. So this was basically my journey, my Don Quixote.
Thank you. Questions? Yes. I see here a hand. I'm not sure if there are others.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Monica, and I'm curious about how difficult it is for the guild leads and masters to align on ideas in such a big company. I'm guessing that in small companies you have just a handful of people to align, but in bigger ones it's a completely different story.
Yes, well, it's not easy, but again, as we scale, we have different roles. So, for instance, now that we're like 5,000 people, the guild is pretty big. It's about, let's say, the engineers who work directly for the guild is about 10% of the company. And some of the roles are like the guild masters and also have the guild is not, okay, this is something that I probably didn't say. The guild is not just the people who work for the guild. The guild is a community, so the guild is everybody across the entire company. So all the backend developers, regardless of where they do, they belong to the guild and they contribute part of their time. One of the things that we have is the 20%. So 20% of the time, which is actually enforced, is time that belongs to the guild. So it's personal, it's education, personal growth. And for everything that, let's say, the guild wants to implement, we assemble, thought leaders, senior engineers from across the company into a working group. And together with them, it's not like, okay, we are in the ivory tower, we're deciding everything for the entire company. It's actually a community-driven effort where we bring people from across the company who have opinions on the problems that we're trying to solve. We have a suggestion for a solution, and then we publish it to the entire organization, to all of R&D. Everybody can comment, and at some point, after we got all the comments, we kind of agree in a smaller group about here are the things that we're gonna do. And it's a lot of convincing. It's not something the guild cannot come with a hammer, okay, I told you to do this because I said so. It's a lot about education and a lot about cooperation and the community.
This answer your question? Oh, I see here.
Hi, I'm the founder of a dojo tech company. We've been through a very similar journey as you have. We just have different names for the guilds and companies and so on. What we did that went the next step, and tell me if you've tried this, is the line management. You've got it going through the guild. We've made it a hybrid so that if it's engineering or product, it's going down the company, and if it's anything else, it's the guild. And what that does is you sacrifice something, but you're still balancing duplication versus dependencies. That worked better for us. Have you thought of that or tried that?
Yes, we actually have that kind of hybrid professions. For instance, our marketing, okay, it's a guild, or design, okay, they actually work while they are a guild, For very few product, they have like their own dedicated people, but on other professions, they actually service providers for the whole company, like you suggested. So it really depends on what. Like for BI, for instance, okay, they don't have dedicated resource of BI to every single company, but they're service providers for other stuff. But for engineers, for things that are highly critical for product delivery, like engineers and product, these are spread around the company just to gain velocity and the ability of the company head to plan. These are the resources that I have. I know that they've been trained. I know that everybody doesn't really matter. And then I can actually plan my goal and not being bound by the resource shifting of someone else decide, okay, now this is more important, now that is more important. Did I answer no question?
You did.
Thank you. One final quick question? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll run. And then we'll break for lunch.
Hello, my name is Ionuț, and I would like to know if there is like a sweet spot number for the members in a company. Or what's the maximum number that worked for you, and what were the challenges? And when do you know to start a new company from an existing one that is too big?
Yeah, so we have, well, the number that actually worked for us is about 100 people in a company. Once a company becomes too big, we split it into mini companies. Again, under one head, but each mini company have their own head of company and their own resources. So that's one thought. It's like it's the number. Another is within one company, maybe you have a specialized domain. For instance, if you think about e-commerce, then you have like the selling, and you have like a specialized domain, which is, let's say, gift cards and payments within the e-commerce platform, which is a big domain. Then we need this kind of expertise and focus on this highly specialized domain within the companies, and then we split it also to their own mini companies.
So it's exactly the time when you see that there is a subdomain in there and it can be splitted.
It can be split, and there is enough people working on that domain. If there's like 5 or if one or 2 teams, then
this is also related to the max number. You said like 100, or it can happen even before that number.
Yeah, it can happen before that. Yes.
Okay.
But when we get 100, it's hard for a person to manage more than 100 people. So then we actually try to do how we can actually split it. And you can always split because they have many teams working on.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our speakers for letting us pick their brains. I'm curious if the guild, the operational guild model would be a dessert. What would you think it is? Since it's lunch.
Sorbet.
Sorbet? Good.